We're going to be going over the stories of the most beloved athletes in sports. And to start, let's take a look at Walter Payton. A player's commitment to philanthropy and community impact, as well as his excellence on the field, is the description of the Walter Payton Man of the Year award in the NFL. And it existed for almost 30 years as just the Man of the Year award until the NFL added Payton's name on it after his death because he was just that respected. Though he died at just 45 years old, Walter Payton, who had the nickname Sweetness through his NFL career, lived one of the most charitable and prolific lives of any athlete ever. In his 13 years with the Chicago Bears, Payton cemented a legacy as an undeniable top 5 running back of all time. He ran for over 16,000 yards, he won an MVP, an Offensive Player of the Year, made 2 different all-decade teams, and revolutionized the running back position. You can't describe the way he ran, you just have to see it for yourself. Payton refused to go down or even out of bounds without contact. He wanted to hit the defense, and he helped make moves like the stiff arm and the stutter step look how they do today. So it's almost unbelievable when I tell you that Walter Payton has an even better legacy off the field than he does on it. When he retired in 1987, he was the NFL's all-time leading rusher, but it was his character that really started to shine through. Everyone who ever met Payton seems to have good things to say about him. Even the 2-second interactions he had, he would spice up by playing catch with a fan or talking to a child about getting his grades up. It's not hard to find a story highlighting exactly who Walter Payton was. It is hard to choose just one though, but I did. Years after his retirement, Payton was flying to Orlando for a vacation. While on the plane, sitting first class, word somehow got to him that there was a sick boy on this flight. Sitting rows behind the former NFL star was an excited 10-year-old and coach. The boy, named Billy, was in need of a liver and kidney transplant. The rest of his life was up in question. He was on this very airplane, courtesy of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Billy was on his way to live his dream of going to Disney World, and as soon as Walter Payton heard of this, he stepped in. Payton had a flight attendant bring Billy and his father up to first class, where they met the superstar and he unloaded an array of pictures and gifts which he signed and gave to Billy. "You've gone through more in your short life than most of us have in a lifetime," Walter told him. "You're a hero." Payton passed away from a rare form of cancer just 3 years later. But Billy is now 36 years old and a construction worker in Orlando, the very destination of their plane that day. Going from one of the best football players to ever step on a field, let's switch it up a bit and explore a guy who is purely admired despite never even being an all-star. Boban Marjanovic has a solid case as the most loved active athlete in the world right now, and it doesn't take very much research to figure out why. The former Serbian League MVP perfectly epitomizes the phrase gentle giant, standing at 7 foot 4 inches but unable to hurt a fly. He could probably make a fly laugh though, and his sense of humor mixed with his inhuman 24/7 good mood is a huge part of what makes everyone want more Boban. He's never averaged more than 10 points a game in the NBA, and he comes off the bench for just a few minutes each night. But that doesn't matter. I saw someone compare him to a human golden retriever, and I just can't get over that one. It's perfect. Boban has the dog-like quality of never having a bad day, and that's an infectious attitude that rubs off on his teammates. One of those teammates being Tobias Harris. Boban and Tobias formed a wholesome, best friend-like bond when they played together on the Pistons in 2017. This relationship took over NBA headlines because of the unlikely pairing, but also because of how happy the whole thing was. It was infinite good vibes, and fans loved the relationship. You also can't ignore the fact that Boban Marjanovic isn't exactly a supermodel when it comes to pro athletes. He's a lot more relatable looking to most people. Maybe not in the height department, but looks-wise and all. Pinning down a Boban story isn't easy either. Just about every player who's had the chance to share the court with him has some sort of silly anecdote that shows who Boban is. But I settled on one from Matt Bonner, who was teammates with Boban in his rookie year in 2015. Now, Boban's a tower of a man, coming into the United States from a different country. As you can imagine, fitting in isn't exactly easy when he goes out in public. He's usually about a foot taller than the next guy in the room, and he doesn't have a 100% grasp on American culture. His rookie year, Boban constantly wore this old, oversized Mickey Mouse shirt in an effort to come off as American. Yet, the 7'4" man repping Mickey Mouse often just drew even more eyes. So Boban, Matt Bonner, and a Spurs coach all went out to grab some food. They settled on Chipotle, which, if you're familiar with Chipotle, it's got these very close together tables. You can sit and eat, there's just not a ton of room. So as the three sit down, everyone around them is pretty blatantly staring like a kid at a handicap person. And keep in mind, Matt Bonner is 6'10", noticeably very tall, and would still look tiny next to Boban. As they eat, a bit uncomfortable from all the eyes on them, the Spurs coach leans over to a group of people in the next booth. "Don't worry," he tells them. He doesn't bite. The group glances at Boban. Burrito in his mouth, he lets out a comically loud roar as the entire restaurant breaks down laughing. Not many can control a room or receive the love better than Boban can, but what about a guy with an insanely positive reputation for a complete different reason? Derrick Rose is a guy who I think every single basketball fan gets happy when they see him succeed. The 2011 NBA MVP is still the youngest player to ever win the award, having done so at just 22 years old. When Rose won that MVP, everything in his future seemed as bright as could possibly be. In just his third season, he helped lead his team to the #1 seed in the entire NBA and was stepping in as the new face of the league. He was just a kid from Chicago, playing on the same team Michael Jordan led to the promised land. The whole story was there, set up and in place. Then it happened. In Game 1 of the first round of the 2012 playoffs, the Bulls had secured a win. They were up 12 with just over a minute to play, but Derrick Rose stayed in the game. On a drive to the basket that's just hard to watch now, Rose attempted a hop step before instantly jumping up in pain. It looked bad, and it was. He tore the ACL in his left knee, which would keep him out the entire next season. And due to the horrible bug that is injuries, Derrick Rose was never the same NBA player after that. He missed another half season when he came back because of his other knee, and eventually he would leave the Bulls in 2016. Rose became a journeyman for the latter half of his career, dealing with rough injuries and still plays today. But that once electrifying spark that defined him in his younger years is all but gone, left to seldomly shine through and remind us all of what could have been. Now, with a net worth around $100 million, D. Rose has been set for life for a long time now. He does not financially need to keep playing in the NBA anymore, and he hasn't for some time. He didn't need to become a journeyman or a former MVP rattled by injuries. He did it purely for the love of the game. And now everyone, myself included, wants to see him win a ring. The guy deserves it. He's purely grinded out a 15-year career, 75% of which he was past his prime for. But he's kept pushing, even if there's only flashes of what he used to be. One of those flashes was a pretty special one, though, that overtook the entire NBA world. October 31st, Halloween 2018. Derrick Rose, playing for his fourth NBA team with the Timberwolves, starts at point guard in an early season game against the Utah Jazz. And on this night, Derrick Rose would turn back the clock a couple years, and one more time, he had the NBA world watching him in awe. Rose hit 4 threes, shot 19 for 31, and dropped a career-high 50 points. One of the most unexpected 50 bombs in NBA history, and there wasn't a person in the world who was upset to see it. For at least one more night, Derrick Rose was king. From a guy beloved for his climb, let's jump to someone who's only ever been lovable. Ken Griffey Jr. He plays the game hard. He plays the game right. He plays the game hurt. Do I give him some special treatment? Sure, because he's earned it. These were the words of Ken Griffey Jr.'s former manager, Bob Boone. Born the son to MLB star Ken Griffey Sr., Jr. lived a life akin to the chosen one. Everything, down to his smile that brightened a room or his iconic backwards hat, seemed to be just another reason why Griffey Jr. was the next perfect MLB star. And that's exactly what happened. He was drafted to the Mariners, where he single-handedly saved baseball in Seattle, and I don't exaggerate when saying that. Jr. quickly became one of the most popular players in league history, an entire generation of kids being inspired by his attitude playing baseball. He signed massive endorsement deals with giants like McDonald's and Nintendo. The kid was a role model, plain and simple, an inspiration to everyone who watched him. He worked his ass off, like when he broke his wrist tracking down a fly ball, but he still kept this sort of carefree perspective on the diamond. You can't overestimate how much people love the dude. He just has that it factor, kind of like a Deion Sanders. Wherever Ken Griffey Jr. is, feels like the center of the universe at that very moment. It was all this and more. He was just so cool. You wanted to be him, but then at the same time he could back it up with his play. He talked the talk and walked the walk with full confidence. Then there was the wholesome father-son moments, them playing on the same team together. It just made everyone feel that much closer to Junior. But I don't want to talk about the time him and his dad hit back-to-back home runs for why Junior is so damn admired, loved, and respected. For that, I found a better one that perfectly encapsulates how Junior just played ball the right way, and everyone knew it. It's an unimportant mid-season game in 1996. Griffey Jr., already a superstar, sits in the dugout and watches his teammates bat. With a runner on first, Russ Davis grounds into a double play. As he jogs back, a couple Mariners fans in the stands start heckling him pretty good. It's a pair of younger dudes, and they're shouting stuff like, "Russ, that wasn't a very good idea. You're supposed to advance the runner. What are you doing?" Nothing crazy, just some average boo-birds. But these callouts continue for a whole nother inning, even when the Mariners take the field. So, the next inning, again, waiting for his turn to bat, Ken Griffey Jr. continues to hear these guys heckle non-stop. So, Jr. gets out of the dugout and stands on the field, facing the stands. The two hecklers are sitting about 8 rows back and are not hard to spot. So Junior just lays into them. "Sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up," he tells the kids. The entire section goes dead quiet. 5 minutes later, there's no more heckling. In fact, there's no more boys there. After being chewed out by the heart and soul of Mariner baseball, these two young guys quietly gathered their stuff and left the ballpark entirely. They weren't asked to leave or kicked out of the game, but when Ken Griffey Jr. makes a fool out of you at a game you're there to see him play, you listen. Now, let's take a look at another guy who was never able to win a ring, but did grab the hearts of fans and anything else you threw near him. Larry Fitzgerald probably saw some of the benefits of people liking you more because your team isn't that good. And that's not an uncommon fate. Walter Payton is the only guy on this entire list who won a championship. But Larry Fitz, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, had it a bit worse than usual. Playing offense, the man had more tackles in his NFL career than dropped passes, an ode to both his always reliable hands as well as the many interceptions tossed while he was on the field. A member of the Arizona Cardinals for his whole 16-year career, Fitz made one Super Bowl but missed the playoffs 12 times, only qualifying 4. Through it all, though, he was an amazingly consistent wideout, coming up huge whenever he was called on. Larry Fitz was the type of guy anyone wants to have as their player. He would make any team instantly better with his addition. But he didn't do that. He stayed with the Cardinals and was a beacon of extreme loyalty his whole career, something that's pretty refreshing with how rare it is in modern sports. A class act if there ever was one, he's been called the GOAT of Arizona sports, and even took home the Walter Payton Man of the Year award in 2016. But for Larry, my favorite story about his character did actually come on the field. Plenty of NFL players use trash talk to get into opponents' heads, try and kind of gain an edge. As such a seasoned vet though, Larry Fitz is smarter than that, and he knows exactly how to really mess with opponents. Using his irreplaceable skills of just being a good dude, Larry gets to know his opponent. He asks personal questions, checks on their wife and kids, and knows them all by name. A former Redskins cornerback put it like this: he's asking you how your family is, then he's trying to bomb you for 70 yards right after. And it's behavior like this that makes him one of, if not the, most lovable athlete in sports.